Welcome to Mind Body Besties, your weekly reset with real talk, a little laughter, and the kind of honest conversations you'd have with your closest friend. I'm Caty, a therapist.
And I'm Rachel, a naturopathic doctor. We're here to share the personal stories, struggles, and wins that have shaped our own health and happiness. This isn't a lecture, it's a safe space to slow down, connect, and feel a little more human again. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's reset together. Hello, everyone. Caty and I are here to talk about how to tell whether you're just unmotivated in general or if maybe your dopamine is actually fried. In our modern world, we have so much stimulation and it's overstimulation to our brain a lot of the times. So we're going to talk about different mental health tips behind this, different neuroscience and brain chemistry behind what's happening, and then also talk about lifestyle and how our modern living can contribute to this, and what Caty and I both do to help reduce our dopamine overstimulation and stay feeling our best. All right.
Yeah, there are so many ways to go with this. And I think the thing that comes to mind first is our phones, because today you can literally do almost anything from your phone. And so the opportunity to get overstimulated it's just too easy. It's too easy today.
It is too easy. Before we hopped on here, Caty and I were nostalgically reminiscing about, since we're millennials, this time before having phones on us all the time. And even when we did finally get phones, like in high school years, it was not the phone that we have now. It was a flip phone with T9 texting. It was not the same situation.
Yeah, and we're not trying to sound like, oh, kids these days.
Right.
We have social media too. We get it. But we have the unique perspective of remembering a time when we didn't have that and what things were like. And phones are great. Social media can be used for a lot of good things. So many apps are really helpful. So it's not all bad, but we just want to talk about what happens if you are overstimulated from all of the instant gratification available to us today.
1000%. I have learned more about skincare on TikTok than I ever would have in my life, which is amazing. And
Right?
yeah, so I don't want to give up my TikTok. I don't want to give up my phone. I love being able to talk with people and make plans. When I'm at the event, I'm meeting someone at versus having to plan everything out hours before because you don't have a phone and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
I love the convenience of all of this. And also, I do recognize that it does affect my brain. I literally notice feeling numb and flat and less motivated, more tired, more depressed when I'm on my phone for a long period of time.
Absolutely. And both of us have TikToks. We use it for our business. We use Instagram. We have a podcast that we make social media posts for. So again, it's not all bad. Now I'm on Mom Talk and I look up snack ideas and cute little outfits. And I like watching that kind of stuff. I like fashion content. I love makeup content. I love watching YouTube videos, long form YouTube of people doing their makeup. But one thing I have noticed is in the good old days before social media, I would go home and I would watch TV shows and I would sit there and I would pay attention to the TV show and not be doing something else. Now, and I hate to even admit this, I have a really hard time just watching a TV show. My phone is usually in my hand, and if that TV show isn't exciting enough or I'm not interested enough, I'm scrolling my phone and watching TV. And afterwards, I have trouble going to sleep, especially at night. I'll do that before bed. I have trouble going to bed because I just way overstimulated myself. And blue light too. We can talk about that, but all the blue light before bed. And so I noticed a big difference too.
Yeah, that totally tracks. And I, for the longest time, was someone who wasn't really very much posting on social media or even scrolling on social media. And now I've caught myself at times where my brain is seeking something, and we'll talk about what that might be, that I find myself picking up my phone to just go on social media just because I have a free minute. Not that I'm going on there for a specific reason to check a certain thing or look up a restaurant's menu. I'm just going on it with a clean slate for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you find yourself bored. Or I think something very unique for Gen Z is since they've grown up with phones, if they're in a situation where they're walking into a place by themselves, they feel weird doing that. So they immediately get on their phone to be doing something. A lot of people make fun of Gen Z for that. I don't think it's their fault. I think that's how they were raised and they don't know what to do with free time. They're not going
Yeah.
to stare at a wall like we might have when we were younger because they don't have to.
Legitimately have stared at so many walls. My family did not have, we were very much, you can only watch TV 30 minutes a day. We didn't have cable. We didn't even get streaming like Netflix till I'd already moved out to college. But yeah, I think it's our brain trying to seek safety and protect us. And I know that there's the whole, everyone talks about how boomers throw shade at Gen Z for that kind of stuff. And I do think as millennials, we have this unique lens of I get both sides. I understand what it's like to live without the technology. And also now that we have it, of course, we're going to be on it and we're going to use it to make us feel more comfortable when we would otherwise feel awkward. 100% what you're saying.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about social media. Aside from that, let's talk about some other ways that you might be seeking dopamine that could be unhealthy. Now, a lot of these involve online things because it makes instant gratification so much easier, but you could be online shopping. You could be out shopping in person and buying things unnecessarily. Dating apps. People can compulsively start using dating apps.
That's a huge one I've seen.
Also, we're not going to get a lot into it, but porn can be a really big issue for some people. Also, streaming services, because again, in the good old days, you had to wait till Tuesday night at 7 when your show came on to watch it. You couldn't just stream everything. And now you can waste a day binge watching something and just getting lost in a TV show.
That's the exact one I was going to say. The auto playing, letting it autoplay the next episode and binging multiple episodes at once. And these ones I think are more on the positive end, but Wordle, Connections, I love playing those games. And those are also still dopamine boosters. Yes, I not anymore because the words got so weird because they ran out of all the normal words and just wanted to keep going. But now I'm a Connections person and I actively try to do that because those are less cheap dopamine than social media and other stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a Wordle I don't even know what the Connections thing is, but you're right. You're at least using your brain in a different way. You're not just mindlessly absorbing.
I'm not just receiving content.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit. Do you want to share, Caty, about some of the emotional numbing or anxiety or other stuff that you see in your work with clients?
So we are right next to the University of Arkansas campus. So I see a lot of college kids, and some of the big themes that come up are feeling anxious, feeling depressed, and unmotivated, and not knowing why. A lot of times, there are lots of reasons for that, but a lot of times I find that these young adults are on social media constantly. They are comparing themselves to other people, to big influencers, and not remembering that stuff isn't real. Sure, maybe what they did that day, they did actually do in their what I do in a day or what I eat in a day or get ready with me. Sure, that probably did happen, but that's 10, 15, maybe 30 minutes of their day. The rest of their day could have been completely horrible and they could be very unhappy. You never know. So they get caught up with comparison or they see friends on stories with their other friends and they get FOMO. They feel left out. Maybe they feel like they can't afford to buy the things that it looks like everyone else has, because you'll see influencers do ads and 5 of them did the same ad in one day. And then you feel like, oh, everyone has this, I don't know, Lululemon set, or Daily Drills is really in right now. Everyone has this Daily Drills set. They really don't. 5 people on social media did. And so that's a big issue. Also, they bring their phone into sessions and they're not checking their phone, but the amount of times they're getting texts and notifications and emails, and they have the notifications on. So the entire session.
That blows my mind. They're not on Do Not Disturb?
No, no.
Whoa.
And I'm very used to it now. And that's, as a therapist, it's not my place to correct them or tell them they shouldn't do that unless they ask me, Or I can work it into session and say, you get a lot of notifications on your phone. How do you feel? Does that make you feel stressed out or anxious? And so the notifications are out of control for a lot of people. And that gets you constantly looking at your phone, trying to stay connected when we need to disconnect sometimes. And then the dating apps. Like, I'm not even actively looking for someone, but the dating apps are fun because they'll get messages from people and they get attention, and that feels good. Or it's fun to look at who's new on there. And that's not always bad, but when you're spending hours a day doing that and there's really no intention of connecting with these people, that's not good for your brain.
That honestly, that makes me think that our dopamine wiring as it pertains to scrolling through these dating apps, that's probably part of what has changed the dating scene so much is because we do get such dopamine from those kind of apps. Now that's a primary way to scroll through. And that's not how you're necessarily, I know people who have definitely successfully met each other on dating apps, but the kind of behavior you're describing where you're not actually intending to talk to that person, that would change your approach to dating, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. And the dating horror stories I've heard from college kids are outrageous. That stuff, again, we sound old, didn't happen when we were in college. I think Tinder was maybe the only dating app.
I don't think anyone used it. It was not a thing.
And I was lucky. I met my husband in class on campus and then never dated anyone else after that because we got married. So I never had to use dating apps. So I can only imagine what that would be like, and especially now.
Yeah. I had one for only 1.5 months of my life when I lived in California. And it didn't feel good to be meeting people that way. I prefer meeting people organically.
Yeah.
But now that dating apps are common, I feel like that's a whole other episode we could talk about. But it reduces your chances of meeting people in person if everyone's expecting to meet people online.
Yeah. The way we're social now has just changed a whole lot. That's what I see from a mental health standpoint. I would love to know more about why do we seek instant gratification, look for those dopamine hits? What's going on in our brains?
Yeah, dopamine is our reward brain chemical, so it makes us feel really good. And dopamine is what people get addicted to if you're a chronic gambler or you're doing something where you might win the lottery and you hear that bell go off if you win some money on a slot machine. So dopamine is that happy reward in our brain. And they've done experiments. It's honestly so depressing with rats where to seek the dopamine high, rats will choose to deprive themselves of an alternative of food in order to chase this dopamine reward that they get when the bell rings or whatever it is. So our brain is just really sensitive to dopamine. And honestly, probably it's so that we had more joy in our lives as we were more than 200 years ago working through life in a way where we didn't have all this extra stimulation. And so we'd want all the little rewards and the little positives to be a big deal because while our relatives are dying from all the flus or whatever was going on back then. So we probably just haven't evolved, truthfully. Our dopamine receptors are probably just super sensitive. And now there's all these opportunities for dopamine hits. Whereas back then, maybe you read a really good book or your coffee was really good that morning or whatever. We didn't have all this. So that's my personal opinion on why it's such a different environment in our brains with dopamine nowadays. But we have this dopamine pathway. It's one of our brain chemicals. Dopamine helps us stay motivated, helps us feel positive. It helps us have energy. And I think there's other things going on that are contributing to us craving these dopamine hits. So we're going to have a hard time running our dopamine pathway and not be getting as much dopamine or feeling as fulfilled with our dopamine if we're having nutrient deficiencies. So we need a good amount of certain protein, amino acid called tyrosine. We need vitamin C, iron, a couple different B vitamins. We need copper, all of those things to run our dopamine pathway. And even someone eating a super healthy diet nowadays with modern agriculture is still probably going to have some nutrient deficiencies. So I think we're probably not running our dopamine pathways efficiently. And then I think our receptors are just super down regulated. So this happens when our receptors become overstimulated because our brain is really smart. So if the volume in your life of people talking around you was suddenly turned up on a stereo to a 10 out of 10, your brain actually, and you might have noticed this if you've gone to a loud concert, but by the end of it, your brain actually tones down. You're listening and the sound signals coming in from people around you, and it turns the dial down to a 5 out of 10 for you. So it's doing that with our dopamine. It's like, oh, okay, we're getting a 10 out of 10 dopamine, so I'm going to down regulate my dopamine receptors so that every time dopamine comes in and docks in this receptor, it's only going to get a 5 out of 10 response instead of the 10 out of 10 response I used to give it.
Keep seeking dopamine in other ways.
Exactly. And I think we get desensitized in our receptors, and then we're like, wait, no, I want to feel that dopamine the way that I did, because our brain naturally wants that. So we start seeking it and doing instant gratification activities.
Yeah, I mean, it's a drug, or like a drug. People that do drugs start out with a certain amount and then need more to get the same high. So this sounds like the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like it is so similar. And I know we were talking about different ways we can try to reset our receptors. And so some of the physical ways that we can do that is our blood sugar being balanced and our insulin being balanced actually helps resensitize our dopamine receptors. So anything we do to pair fat, fiber, and protein in our diet throughout the day and limit our sugar and refined carbs is going to help improve our overall receptor sensitivity. So the dopamine that docks feels like a 10 out of 10 again instead of a 5 out of 10. There's neat supplements like inositol that also actually help resensitize all of the receptors in our body. And then I think this is really interesting. There's times in our life when we're going to be maybe more drawn to dopamine hits because it's going to be naturally lower. So women who are nursing, if you're breastfeeding, you have really high levels of prolactin, which is a sex hormone that actually lowers your dopamine. And there's a lot of young women out there who have a prolactinoma, a pituitary tumor, and it is secreting extra prolactin even when you're not breastfeeding. And most people will never even know that they have it, but that can lower your dopamine too. So there are physical things that can go on.
Wow. And breastfeeding is already so hard for a lot of women. That's what you need.
It's not fair. It's like you already feel awful, so we're gonna have more awfulness on top of that.
Okay, while you were talking about that, that got me thinking. One thing I've noticed is typically, at least, people with ADHD seem to deal with more stimulation better than other people. So they can maybe handle loud noises and a lot going on around them without feeling overstimulated. Whereas someone like me, I'm a highly sensitive person. I would go insane and instantly need to leave that situation and take a nap and be alone. And so I wonder, I know when we did the ADHD episode, we did talk about dopamine and some other things. That seems possibly connected in some way to me.
Ooh, I feel like you're totally onto something because with ADHD, usually your dopamine is low and your receptors are desensitized. So yeah, if you're sensitive and a 10 out of 10 is a 10 out of 10 and not a 5 out of 10 for you, and if your dopamine's already at a good level, so you don't need it higher, then I could see what you're saying where you feel overstimulated by the loud noises because of the dopamine.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I love that tie-in. Yeah, our brains are honestly fascinating and they're always adjusting stuff for us. So knowing that our brain has this tendency to down regulate our receptor sensitivity. So it makes that 10 out of 10 signal come through as a 5 out of 10. Before we got on, we were talking about different ways that we can basically resensitize our receptors through lifestyle. So do you want to share about the app that you've used before, Caty, on your phone?
Yeah, so I can't actually remember what it was called, but it was a free app. You can find several of these, but basically what it does is when you try to open social media, it asks you, do you really want to open this? So what I did is I said, I only want 30 minutes of screen time on these apps. So I picked Instagram and TikTok because that's what I get on usually, and said I only want 30 minutes a day. and you can spread that 30 minutes however you want. But when you go to click to get on the app, it says, do you really want to open this right now? And you click yes, and then it makes you wait a minute before it opens. I think you could even set it to make you wait 3 minutes. There were lots of options. And so it makes you think about it. And what I realized was how many times I would open my phone and just automatically, without even thinking about it, open one of those apps. And it was eye-opening. It was a little embarrassing that I was like, why? Why am I trying to get on TikTok right now? There are 10 other things I could be doing, but I didn't want to do those things. And I just wanted to chill. But there are way more beneficial ways to just chill if you want to distract yourself with something. Another thing I've seen recently is the brick, which, have you heard about the brick?
Is that the thing people are attaching to their phones?
Well, so what you do is, I don't know exactly how it works, but basically you brick yourself so you can't get on social media, and you go put the brick on your fridge. I think they're magnetic, or somewhere in another room. So if you want to get on social media, you have to physically get up from your location, go to the brick, and set it to allow you to get on social.
Oh, I was thinking like an actual brick. This is
No,
different.
no, it's like a device. It looks like an AirTag almost. It's like around that size, but people are using them because they're like, I don't have the self-control to not get on social media, but we are still lazy
Right.
enough that if you're in bed at night and you're like ready to go to sleep, but you want to scroll a little, you don't want to get up and go to the kitchen
That is
and
so
change
smart.
the settings.
So is
But
it something that you would only be on social media when you're near where the brick is because it allows you to connect, or can you bring it with you?
you can bring it with you, but I think to get back on social media, you have to actually scan your phone. So
Okay.
you could have it with you, but if you
But you
leave it in another
strategically
room,
leave it far from you.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a really good idea. I saw an idea pop up the other day where someone has made it's all about the neuromechanics of what we use tools for. And we have gotten so used to having our phone as just an accessory on us that we forget it's a tool. And so they were making it look like a handheld phone and having this case you can put on it that's a 10-pound weight, like a dumbbell.
Oh
Because
my
you would never
God.
just carry a dumbbell from the gym around with you all day. That's a tool you're using for a specific purpose. It's the
Right.
same idea to train your brain to be like, this is a tool. I only use this when I need to go make a call or something.
Yeah. And I think also, if you are like, I don't know how much time I spend on social media or whatever, just turn your screen time on your phone and prepare to be so humbled by that. And
Good idea.
if you're someone that social media is your job, if you can limit yourself to only doing your job on social media and not scrolling, that's a really good place to start.
I love that. I make a point to not get on my phone for the first hour I'm awake because the first hour that you're awake is priming that dopamine receptor sensitivity, 5 out of 10 versus 10 out of 10 for the whole rest of your day. And then what I try to do, I'm not always perfect about this, is have 2 30-minute chunks of time that I get on specifically to engage and check my messages and keep it to that. It's like a scheduled meeting Zoom time, the same way I would have a meeting.
Yeah, I have tried the not getting on my phone first thing in the morning, and I need to be better, but I'm always worried that I've got a message from one of the therapists that works with me and they need something. But realistically, if I wake up at 6 in the morning, there's probably nothing I can do at 6 in the morning. We're not even open yet. So I could theoretically wait at least an hour until 7 to check messages. But then I have anxiety because I'm not checking them. And so that's an area of growth for me.
That's hard. If I know someone will have been reaching out to me or something, it's really hard to not check. So, limiting screen time, being really aware of when we're using our phone. And then, one other thing that can help reset and regulate our dopamine is intentional exercise and sunlight exposure. When we get morning sun hitting our retinas, the back of our eyes, it's blue light, which is why we need to be really careful about our blue light exposure. But that increases our dopamine. And ideally, our dopamine is going to be higher during the daytime. And then we want it to calm down at night because it's a stimulating hormone. So we want it to lower so we can feel relaxed and sleep. And then I know we talked about a runner's high before, but what do you feel about overall? Do you notice feeling rewarded after you exercise?
If it's exercise that I enjoy doing, yes.
I feel like sometimes I feel it and sometimes I don't. But I do know that in general, exercise
So
can help our dopamine.
I've noticed that I don't usually feel that way immediately after, but a little bit later in the day, I think my energy levels are higher and I do feel better overall. But if I go do a really killer workout afterwards, I'm just exhausted and it takes a while to feel the effects of that.
I think it's probably the whole big picture too of it helping stabilize our insulin and it's making our receptors sensitive. I feel like for me, it makes me feel more balanced throughout the week. But yeah, I don't always feel big. I feel great later.
Yeah. I think with a lot of these lifestyle changes, people again are looking for instant gratification and a big change very quickly. And that's just not how this stuff works. It's little bits of improvement over time if you are consistent. If you go one day without looking at social media and not looking at your phone first thing in the morning, your dopamine receptors are not going to be resensitized all of a sudden. It's a consistent thing that you have to work on doing. And so, again, we've been trained that we want instant gratification now. So, especially with health things, they're always so complex that you're not going to get instant gratification 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. And that leads to the mental framing. We know that it's good to do these things. We probably all know on some level it's not good to scroll or always binge or be on our phone before bed. And also, we still choose to do these things because
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is that we're in this fight or flight reactive mode. And so when we're in fight or flight, stress is addicting. We know now you can literally be addicted to your stress chemicals, and dopamine interplays with that cortisol stress hormone a lot. So I think we want to keep feeling the stress. We don't want to feel the come down, the settling that happens when you shift from being in fight or flight for a long time down to being in rest and heal. You can get the shakes. There's this uncomfortable, uneasy, it's called parasympathetic settling that we move through. And I think we probably all are resisting that feeling of coming down into rest and heal.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when hustle culture became a big thing, I think that was a really big disservice because it was teaching people to be valuable or to be worth something, whatever that means. You have to be productive.
And
The
on
more-
all the time.
yes. And the more productive you are, the better person that makes you, or the more valuable you are to society. And that just isn't true. And that just leads to burnout, is what ends up happening. No one can be productive all the time. And honestly, if you're being productive all the time, you're not running at full capacity. Whereas if you would allow yourself to rest and then work while you were at full capacity, you'd probably get more done. And it would
Yeah.
probably be better, more fulfilling work for you. So I think hustle culture, big issue.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the things that we interact with day to day, again, especially on social media, it's really hard to not open your phone and see something maybe political or something controversial or a really polarizing topic. And so when we think we're relaxing, I think sometimes we're scrolling social media and we're activating all of those stress hormones because we see something that pisses us off on social media or something gives us something new to worry about. And so I don't think our brains think we're even safe when we're scrolling that because especially on TikTok, you don't have full control over what you're
Yeah.
seeing.
That's a really good point. I think in general, what I'm seeing is that most of us are not feeling super safe in our bodies. And so, yeah, that our brain wants to enact and carry out that stress in your body somehow. And it's confusing because you could have seen this video online of a horrible car accident and your body thinks you can't tell the difference between what you're seeing and what you're really experiencing. So then our body wants to play out and complete that stress cycle from this stressful thing that we just saw. And then we're like, okay, so I'm going to keep engaging in these scrolling or whatever gets my stress chemicals going because I'm trying to play out this stress cycle. But really, we should probably I don't like to use the word should, but really it'd probably be more beneficial for us to move our bodies or do something else to signal to it that we outran the line and we can come back down. But yeah, I don't think it's healthy to be being hit with all of these things. How often in real life would we actually see a traumatic event like that right in front of our faces?
And I also think it's easier to open your phone wherever you're sitting than it is to go find a book you want to read and read that book. It's easier to go eat a bunch of candy than it is to make a meal. And so I get it. All of this is convenience. Sitting down with your own thoughts and doing nothing, while that sounds easy, is really not that easy because we're always in the fast-paced world today in this kind of heightened state. And yeah, like you said, when you come back down, people are like, I don't know what to do. I feel uncomfortable just sitting here, so I must need to grab my phone. I must need to be doing something when it's no, you actually don't need to be doing anything. This is good for you. So I think it's a good time to talk about dopamine detox
Yes.
now and how you can do that. I've seen this on social media several times, and you're not lowering your dopamine. You're just reducing the overstimulation that you've been getting from instant gratification. So really easy ways to do this are replacing high dopamine activities with low dopamine activities. So instead of scrolling your phone, read something or color or some low stimulation activity. You can also just ask yourself when you have the urge to pick up your phone or the urge to go eat a bunch of candy or the urge to online shop, ask yourself, what am I avoiding or what am I craving right now? And figuring out what it is you really want. And chances are you're just looking for some kind of stimulation. You're looking for something to make you happy or be exciting. And then when you can realize that, think, is there a healthier way I could do this? Could I go outside? Could I even physically going to the store versus buying something online is a very different experience. And then when I was kind of searching for things to talk about for this episode, I found someone had said, make Sunday your reset day, which a lot of people do, but make it a dopamine light day. So maybe put your phone on do not disturb for a part of the day. Maybe just put it away and read instead. Maybe make sure that you're not having blue light after a certain amount of time. Go outside, sit in the sun, do things like that instead. And even if you just had that one day a week where you took a dopamine break, that would still be beneficial.
Yeah, that'd still be resetting your receptors. I like those. I think I would add to the list thinking of dopamine in terms of replacing these cheap dopamine hits like scrolling with high value dopamine hits. If you go volunteer in your community and that feels rewarding, that is a really deep, core centered dopamine reward as opposed to something like social media. And I've been trying to do this really basking in each happy thing, anything I can celebrate, celebrating all the wins in my life, celebrating the happy moments in my life. That is a dopamine practice, and it lets us not keep seeking dopamine outside of ourselves. Chips are actually a huge dopamine hit because they are crunchy.
Yeah.
So you can replace apples with chips. They're crunchy too, but not seeking this external dopamine, being like, no, it's a beautiful day that I'm enjoying. I'm having this really nice, lazy morning with my dog, whatever it is. And really savoring the beauty of that moment is also a dopamine hit.
Earlier today, I made a smoothie. I make smoothies a lot. And today, I just made a particularly good one. And I literally, my husband was at home and I said, damn, this is a good smoothie. I could sell this. And he laughed and I was like, no, this is actually really good. And I like made a big deal out of it, but I really enjoyed that smoothie. It was a good part of my
And that's
day.
the thing you do routinely all the time. It's a little thing, but you were able to celebrate it and make it a big deal.
Yeah. And it was so much more enjoyable than usual.
Yeah. I feel like there's really something to the whole being delusionally happy and celebrating things because it really does balance your dopamine.
Yeah, I think so. It doesn't have to be a huge thing for you to be happy. I think we've also been taught to just gloss over little things that happen that are good things. And so if you can You don't have to formally have a gratitude list or journal or whatever, but if you can just take that one extra second to be like, that was really nice, I enjoyed that, then I
Yeah.
think you're doing a lot for yourself just by doing that.
I think one of the easiest places to start noticing is sensations. Noticing, oh man, these clothes feel really soft on my skin, or my chair seat feels really cushiony. Or if you get in your car to drive, wow, my steering wheel feels so nice and smooth. Those are small little things. I think textures can be an easy place to start.
That's also really grounding too, because you're focusing on the way something feels on your body or the way something feels to you. And anything like that is grounding. It's going to take you out of your head and into your body.
Yeah. I think to close out into what we can actually do to incentivize ourselves to do these things, because now we have all of these things we know that would be beneficial for us to do, but sometimes it's still really hard to do those things. And I like to frame it in a way of what would it take for me to be in a place to choose that? Or what would it take for me to love myself so much to choose that for myself? Or what would it take for me to care for my body like a best friend? And if I knew that it was not great for my dog to be scrolling social media, I would have my dog be taking a walk outside or something. So treating my body with that same kindness.
And I have two things of advice. One is it can also be really overwhelming to be like, okay, where do I start with this? So pick one thing that you think will be the easiest for you and try to do that, whatever it is. But then also, another way to frame it is if I'm not spending my time doing these dopamine seeking activities, what do I gain? What can I do instead? Like for me, I might be more present with my daughter. I might have time to take a walk outside. I might have time to, I don't know, just do whatever it is I want to do if I'm not wasting time doing these other things that aren't necessary. So, what can I gain from doing this? What good will come of it?
I love that. I feel like in my adult life, most of my activities have been a pursuit for peace. And I personally find that doing things that regulate my dopamine bring me so much mental peace.
Once you make that a routine, it actually feels better than doing the dopamine high.
Once you get through the shakes, the settling,
Yeah,
and you
right.
get down and you get regulated.
Yeah, it feels better than the overstimulating stuff.
1000%. Hopefully, this has some good nuggets in it or something that was new for your brain. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode. I think we had a lot of fun talking about this.
Oh, yeah. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I do all of these things, pretty much all of us do. So it's just the society that we're in, but we are able to make the choice to do something better for ourselves. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too.
This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.